The morning started like any other on the mining planet of Kepler 442b. Zara Veltar stood at the window of her office, watching the blue sun rise over the crystal mountains. She was the colony administrator, responsible for keeping 30 million Therian people safe and happy. Her blue skin gleamed in the morning light as she sipped her morning tea and reviewed the daily reports. The Therians had lived on this world for over 200 years. They were a peaceful people who never fought wars or hurt others. Their tall, thin bodies and large eyes made them look gentle, which they truly were. They came to this planet to mine rare crystals that grew deep in the mountains. These crystals were valuable across the galaxy, but the Therians only took what they needed and always respected their world. Elder Koth walked into Zara's office without knocking. His ancient face looked worried, and his usual calm was gone. At 300 years old, he was the wisest person in the colony. When Elder Koth looked scared, everyone should be afraid. "Zara, we have a problem," he said in their soft, musical language. "Our long-range sensors have picked up something terrible." Zara set down her teacup. "What kind of problem?" "Ships. 12 of them. Big ones. They are coming toward our world very fast." Zara felt her heart sink. The Therians had heard stories about the Vaktar Empire. They were a race of violent warriors who took what they wanted from weaker species. Their ships were black and covered in weapons. They showed no mercy to anyone who stood in their way. "Are you sure they are Vaktar?" Zara asked, hoping Elder Koth was wrong. "Yes, our computers matched their ship design. They will be here in less than 6 hours." Zara ran to the window and looked up at the sky. It was still peaceful and blue, but soon it would be filled with enemy ships. She turned back to Elder Koth. "What do we do? We have no weapons, no army, no way to fight them." Elder Koth's large eyes were sad. "We prepare our people. We send out distress calls to anyone who might help us, and we pray to the old gods that someone will come." Within an hour, every Therian on the planet knew about the coming attack. Panic spread through the cities like wildfire. Parents grabbed their children and ran toward the underground shelters. The few transport ships the Therians owned began loading with elderly people and babies, trying to get them away from the planet. But there was nowhere to run. The Vaktar ships were too fast, and Therian vessels were built for mining, not escaping from warriors. Zara stood in the colony's main communication center, watching her people work frantically to send distress signals across space. The large room was filled with computers and screens showing star maps. Young Therians with communication training pressed buttons and spoke into microphones, begging for help in dozens of different languages. "This is the Therian colony on Kepler 442b, one of them said over and over. "We are under attack by the Vaktar Empire. We are peaceful people with no weapons. Please, if anyone can hear this, we need help. 30 million innocent lives are in danger. Please help us." The messages went out through hyperspace, racing toward distant worlds at faster than light speed. They went to the Galactic Council, to nearby star systems, to anyone who might have ships strong enough to fight the Vaktar. But deep down everyone knew the truth. Help would not come in time, if it came at all. The Vaktar ships appeared on the edge of the solar system exactly when Elder Koth said they would. They were huge, dark vessels covered in gun ports and missile tubes. Each ship was 3 times bigger than anything the Therians had ever built. They moved through space like hungry sharks coming straight for the planet. The lead ship was called the Death's Edge, commanded by Commander Brix Vaktos. He was a cruel warrior who had destroyed 17 worlds for the Empire. His red eyes glowed with pleasure as he looked at the peaceful planet below. "This will be easy," he told his crew. "Look at them. No orbital defense stations, no military, ships, no weapons at all. We will take their crystals and sell their people as slaves. The Empire will reward us well." The Vaktar ships surrounded the planet like a net. Their first attack destroyed all the communication satellites, cutting off the Therians from the outside galaxy. Then they began firing on the mining stations in orbit, turning them into burning metal that fell from the sky like deadly rain. Zara watched from the underground command center as her world burned above her. The main cities were protected by energy shields. but she knew those shields would not last long against Vaktar weapons. Commander Vaktos sent a message to the planet. His ugly face appeared on every screen that still worked. When he spoke, his voice was full of hate and violence. "Weak Therians, I am Commander Vaktos of the glorious Vaktar Empire. Your world now belongs to us. You have one day to surrender all your crystal mines and submit to slavery. If you refuse, we will kill every single one of you and take the Yao crystals from your dead bodies. Choose wisely." The message ended, leaving only silence in the command center. Elder Koth put his hand on Zara's shoulder. "Keep sending the distress calls," he said quietly. "Even if no one comes to save us, the galaxy should know what happened here. Maybe our deaths will mean something." Zara nodded and turned back to the communication equipment. Her hands shook as she spoke into the microphone. "This is Zara Veltar of the Therian colony. The Vaktar Empire has surrounded our world. They want to kill us all and steal everything we have built. We are sending this message to anyone who believes that peaceful people should not die for the greed of others. If you can hear this, please remember us. Please remember that we tried to live in peace." Above them, the first energy blasts began hitting the planetary shields. The lights flickered in the command center as the shields absorbed the attack. Everyone knew it was only the beginning. Soon the shields would fail, and the real horror would start. In the darkness of space, the distress calls continued racing toward distant stars, carrying the desperate hope of 30 million innocent souls. 3 days passed and no help came for the Therians. Their distress calls traveled through space, reaching dozens of civilizations, but every response was the same. Either silence or messages saying they were sorry but could not help. The Galactic Council received the emergency signals first. The council was made up of 12 different alien species who were supposed to keep peace in their part of the galaxy. They held meeting after meeting, arguing about what to do. Some members wanted to send ships to help the Therians. Others were afraid of making the Vaktar Empire angry. "If we fight the Vaktar, they might attack our worlds next," said the leader of the Reptilian Alliance. "We cannot risk our own people for strangers." "But the Therians are innocent," argued the representative from the Crystal Worlds. "They have never hurt anyone. They deserve our protection." The arguments went on for hours, then days. While they talked, the Therians continued to die. In the end, the council decided to send a strongly worded message to the Vaktar Empire, asking them to please stop attacking innocent people. Everyone knew the message would be ignored. Other nearby civilizations were contacted by the Therian distress calls. The proud warrior race called the Zentari said they would love to fight the Vaktar, but their fleet was busy fighting a war on the other side of their territory. The peaceful Aquatic Alliance felt terrible about the situation, but their ships were built for exploring oceans, not fighting space battles. The advanced machine consciousness calculated that helping the Therians had only a 12% chance of success, and decided it was not worth the risk. One by one, every major power in that region of space found reasons not to help. Some were cowards, some were too busy with their own problems. Some simply did not care about a small mining colony far from their homes, but one message did reach someone who cared. Dr. Maya Patel sat in her chair at the Deep Space Monitoring Station on Earth, listening to strange sounds coming through her headphones. She was a language expert who spent her days trying to understand alien communications. Most of the time, she heard nothing but background noise from space. But today was different. The sounds in her headphones were clearly a language, but unlike anything she had ever heard before. The voice was musical and soft, but filled with terror and sadness. Maya had studied over 300 alien languages in her career. She was the best in the world at figuring out what aliens were trying to say. She worked for 6 hours straight, playing the message over and over, comparing it to every language database Earth had. Slowly, words began to make sense, then sentences. Finally, she understood the full meaning of what she was hearing. Maya felt sick to her stomach. The message was from a species called Therians, and they were begging for help. An entire world of innocent people was about to be destroyed by something called the Vaktar Empire. Maya had never heard of either group before, but that did not matter. What mattered was that 30 million people were going to die if no one helped them. She ran through the halls of the monitoring station, looking for her boss. Dr. Peterson was in his office, eating a sandwich and reading reports about solar activity. "Dr. Peterson, you need to hear this right now," Maya said, breathing hard from running. "What is it, Maya? Did we finally get a message from those radio signals near Alpha Centauri?" "No, this is much more important. There is an alien species under attack. They are going to be wiped out completely. We have to do something." Dr. Peterson put down his sandwich. "Slow down. Tell me exactly what you heard." Maya played the translated message for her boss. As he listened, his face became serious. When the message ended, he was quiet for a long time. "How far away are they?" he asked. "Based on the signal strength and time delay, I estimate about 4 months travel time at maximum hyperspace speed." 4 months? Even if we wanted to help, we would never get there in time. "But we have to try," Maya said. "We are the only ones who can help them." Dr. Peterson shook his head. "Maya, humanity has only had faster-than-light travel for 3 years. We have never been in a space battle. We do not even know what this Vaktar Empire is capable of. Sending our only deep space warship on a mission like this would be suicide. So, we just let them die? We report this to the military command and let them decide. That is all we can do." The message reached military headquarters within an hour. Admiral Jack Morrison was in a meeting with other high-ranking officers when his assistant brought him the urgent report. Admiral Morrison was a tough man who had spent his whole life in the military. He had fought in wars on Earth and in space, but he had never faced anything like this. "Let me understand this correctly," Admiral Morrison said to the room full of officers. "We have received a distress call from an alien species we have never met, asking us to fight another alien species we know nothing about, in a star system 4 months away from Earth." "That is correct, sir," said Captain Lisa Chen, his second in command. According to Dr. Patel's translation, the Therians are completely defenseless. They have no weapons and no military. The Vaktar Empire is probably going to kill all of them within days. And we have one ship capable of making that journey, the UES Vengeance. "Yes, sir. She is our most advanced warship, but she has never been tested in real combat against an unknown enemy." Admiral Morrison walked to the window and looked out at the stars. Earth had spent centuries fighting wars with itself. Only recently had humanity learned to work together and reach for the stars. Now they were being asked to risk everything to save people they had never met. Lieutenant Sam Rodriguez, the communications officer, spoke up from the back of the room. "Sir, I have been monitoring the Therian distress calls. They are getting weaker. I think their communication equipment is being destroyed." "How long do we have to make a decision?" Admiral Morrison asked. "If we are going to help them, we need to leave within the next 12 hours. Any longer, and we definitely will not arrive in time." The room was silent. Everyone knew this was the most important decision humanity had ever made as a spacefaring species. If they succeeded, they would become known across the galaxy as heroes. If they failed, Earth's only deep space warship would be destroyed, and humanity would be defenseless against future threats. Admiral Morrison turned back to face his officers. His decision would determine not just the fate of the Therians, but the future of humanity itself. "Prepare the UES Vengeance for immediate departure," he said firmly. "We are not going to let innocent people die while we have the power to help them." Some officers looked worried. Others smiled with pride. Captain Lisa Chen stepped forward. "Sir, what should I tell the crew about our mission?" Admiral Morrison's jaw was set with determination. "Tell them we are going to show the galaxy what humans do when innocent people need help. Tell them we are going to win." Within hours, the UES Vengeance was loaded with supplies and weapons. The crew of 200 brave men and women prepared for a journey into the unknown. They did not know if they would ever see Earth again, but they knew they were doing the right thing. As the ship left Earth's orbit and jumped into hyperspace, Dr. Maya Patel watched from her monitoring station. She whispered a prayer for the Therians and for the humans racing to save them. In space, time moved slowly, but hope moved faster than light. The UES Vengeance raced through hyperspace faster than any human ship had ever traveled before. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the swirling colors of hyperspace through the main screen. His ship was pushing beyond safe limits, but every second counted. Somewhere far ahead, innocent people were dying while they traveled through the void. Captain Lisa Chen walked up beside him, holding a datapad with updates from around the ship. She was Admiral Morrison's most trusted officer, a brilliant woman who had helped design many of the ship's weapon systems. "How are we doing, Captain?" Admiral Morrison asked without taking his eyes off the screen. "We are making good time, sir. Chief Engineer Alex Turner says we can maintain this speed for another week before the engines need maintenance. But there is something else we need to discuss." Admiral Morrison turned to face her. "What is it?" "We have been studying everything we know about the Vaktar Empire. The news is not good." Captain Chen activated her datapad, and holographic images appeared in the air between them. The images showed large, dark spaceships covered in weapons. According to our intelligence, the Vaktar use 12 heavy cruisers in their attack fleets. Each cruiser is twice the size of our ship and carries 3 times as many weapons. Their armor is extremely thick, and their shields can absorb massive amounts of damage. Admiral Morrison studied the enemy ships. They looked dangerous and powerful. "What about their tactics?" "They prefer direct assault. They surround their target and bombard it with overwhelming firepower until nothing is left. They have used this method to destroy dozens of worlds over the past 50 years. "Any weaknesses?" Captain Chen smiled slightly. "That is where it gets interesting. The Vaktar have never lost a battle, so they have become overconfident. They always use the same tactics because they have always worked. They rely on brute force and superior numbers, which means they might not be ready for something different." "Exactly, sir. They have never fought humans before. They do not know how we think or how we fight." Admiral Morrison nodded. "Get all the department heads together in the conference room. We need to start planning our attack." An hour later, the ship's senior officers gathered around a large table in the conference room. Chief Engineer Alex Turner was there, a thin man with oil stains on his uniform from working on the engines. Dr. Ben Clark, the ship's medical officer and alien expert, sat next to Sergeant Kate Wilson, the tough woman who led the ship's marine fighters. "Ladies and gentlemen," Admiral Morrison began, "in 3.5 months, we will arrive at the Therian system. When we get there, we will be facing 12 enemy ships that are bigger and more powerful than ours. We will be outnumbered 12 to 1. Under normal circumstances, this would be called a suicide mission." The room was quiet. Everyone understood the odds they faced. "But these are not normal circumstances," the Admiral continued. "We are not going there to die. We are going there to win. And we are going to win because we have something the Vaktar do not have. We have human creativity, human stubbornness, and human refusal to give up when innocent people need help." Sergeant Wilson leaned forward. "What do you need from my Marines, sir?" "I need you to prepare for boarding actions. If we can get close enough to the enemy ships, we might be able to capture or disable them from the inside." Sergeant Wilson grinned. "My people would love the chance to show these Vaktar what human Marines can do in close combat." Admiral Morrison turned to Chief Engineer Turner. "Alex, I need you to work miracles with our weapons and engines. Can you give us any advantages?" Alex Turner pushed his glasses up his nose and thought for a moment. "I have some ideas, sir. What if we modified our torpedo warheads to emit electromagnetic pulses? That might disrupt their electronics. And I think I can boost our shield generators by rerouting power from non-essential systems." "Do it. What about our engines?" "I can probably squeeze another 10% speed out of them, but it will be risky. The engines were not designed to run that hot for extended periods. The whole mission is risky. Do whatever you can." Dr. Clark spoke up. "Admiral, I have been studying what little we know about Vaktar biology. They are reptilian creatures with very good eyesight, but poor hearing. They also seem to have slower reaction times than humans. That might give our pilots an advantage in ship-to-ship combat." Captain Chen added, "I have been working on new attack patterns. Instead of the direct assault the Vaktar expect, we could use hit-and-run tactics. Strike fast, disappear, then strike from a different direction. Over the following weeks, the entire crew worked day and night to prepare for the battle ahead. Chief Engineer Turner and his team modified every weapon on the ship. They created new types of missiles that could confuse enemy sensors. They upgraded the ship's computers to process information faster during combat. Sergeant Wilson trained her Marines harder than they had ever trained before. They practiced fighting in the low gravity and strange atmospheres they might encounter. On alien ships, they learned to use new weapons designed specifically for close combat with reptilian enemies. Dr. Clark worked with the communications team to learn everything they could about Therian language and culture. If there were survivors when they arrived, the humans needed to be able to communicate with them quickly. Meanwhile, far away in the Kepler system, the situation grew worse every day. The Vaktar had landed troops on the planet and were systematically destroying Therian cities. Commander Vaktos was enjoying the destruction. He walked through the ruins of what had once been a beautiful city, watching his soldiers drag Therian prisoners to slave ships. "Resistance is pointless," he told the Therian leaders who had been captured. "Your distress calls have been ignored by the entire galaxy. No one is coming to save you. Submit now and I will let some of your people live as slaves." Elder Koth, now a prisoner, looked at the Vaktar commander with dignity despite his chains. "Even if we all die, someone will. Remember what you did here. The universe has a way of balancing evil with good." Commander Vaktos laughed. "Old fool. I have destroyed 17 worlds, and no one has ever made me pay for any of them. Your world will be number 18. But unknown to the Vaktar, some Therians had escaped to hidden caves deep in the mountains. Zara Veltar was among them, along with thousands of other survivors. They had managed to keep one small communication device working, and they continued to send weak distress signals into space. "Any response to our messages?" asked one of the younger Therians. Zara shook her head sadly. "Nothing. I think we are truly alone." But she was wrong. Racing through hyperspace toward them was a ship full of humans who had never met a Therian, but were willing to die to protect them. As the UES Vengeance entered the final month of its journey, Admiral Morrison gathered his crew in the main hangar bay. 200 brave men and women stood before him, ready to face impossible odds. "In 4 weeks we will arrive at our destination," he told them. "We do not know exactly what we will find there, but we know it will be dangerous. Some of us might not make it home. But I want you all to know that what we are doing here will be remembered forever. We are not just representing Earth or humanity. We are representing the idea that good people should help each other, no matter how different they are or how far apart they live." The crew cheered, and Admiral Morrison felt proud of every single person on his ship. As the ship continued its journey through the dark void of space, each day brought them closer to a battle that would determine the fate of an entire world and establish humanity's place in the galaxy. The UES Vengeance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler system, hiding behind a massive gas giant to avoid being detected. Admiral Morrison stood on the bridge, staring at the horrible sight on the main screen. The once beautiful blue planet was now covered in smoke and fire. Bright explosions lit up the night side of the world as Vaktar ships continued their bombardment. "My God," whispered Dr. Clark, who had never seen a world under attack before. "How many people have they killed?" Captain Chen was studying the sensor readings with a grim expression. "I count 12 Vaktar cruisers in orbit around the planet. They are positioned exactly as our intelligence predicted. 3 ships covering each side of the planet with no room for escape." Lieutenant Ryan Foster, the ship's best pilot, turned from his control station. "Admiral, their formation is designed to prevent anyone from leaving the planet, but it also means they are not watching for threats coming from outside the system." Admiral Morrison nodded. "That will be their first mistake. Commander Nina Brooks, what is the status of our weapons?" Commander Brooks was the ship's weapons officer, a calm woman who could hit targets most people could not even see. "All weapons are ready, sir. Chief Turner's modifications are working perfectly. Our new stealth torpedoes are loaded and ready to fire." "Sergeant Wilson, are your Marines ready?" Sergeant Wilson smiled with fierce determination. "My people are suited up and ready to board enemy ships, sir. We have been waiting 4 months for this fight." Admiral Morrison took a deep breath. Everyone listen carefully. We are about to do something that has never been attempted before. We are going to attack 12 ships with one ship and win. We are going to do this because we must, and because we are human. The Admiral turned to Lieutenant Foster. Ryan, take us in using the shadow of the gas giant's moons. Keep us hidden until we are in torpedo range of the nearest enemy ship. The UES Vengeance moved silently through space, using the gravity of the gas giant's moons to mask their approach. The ship's advanced stealth systems made them nearly invisible to enemy sensors. Commander Vaktos and his fleet had no idea death was approaching from the darkness. On the planet below, Zara Veltar crouched in a cave with the other Therian survivors. The sound of explosions echoed through the mountain as Vaktar ground forces destroyed everything they could find. Children cried softly while their parents tried to comfort them. "The end is coming," said one of the older Therians. "Soon they will find us, and it will all be over." Zara held her small communication device, still sending weak signals into space even though she knew no one would answer. "We cannot give up hope," she said quietly. "Somewhere in the universe, there must be someone who cares about justice." Above them in space, the human ship moved closer to its first target. "We are in range," whispered Commander Brooks. "The nearest Vaktar ship has no idea we are here." Admiral Morrison felt the weight of the moment. Everything depended on the next few minutes. "Fire all forward torpedoes. Target their engines and weapon systems." 6 stealth torpedoes launched from the UES Vengeance, moving silently through space toward the unsuspecting enemy ship. The torpedoes were designed by Chief Turner to be invisible to Vaktar sensors and to hit multiple targets at the same time. The first torpedo struck the Vaktar cruiser's main engine, sending explosions throughout the back of the ship. The second and third torpedoes hit the weapon systems, destroying gun turrets and missile launchers. The fourth torpedo struck the ship's communication array, cutting it off from the rest of the fleet. The fifth and sixth torpedoes hit the bridge, killing most of the senior officers. The Vaktar ship began spinning out of control, fires burning throughout its hull. It was completely disabled in less than 10 seconds. "First target neutralized," reported Commander Brooks with satisfaction, but the explosions had alerted the other Vaktar ships. Commander Vaktos stared at his tactical display in shock as one of his cruisers suddenly appeared as a burning wreck. "What happened?" he demanded of his sensor officer. "Unknown, Commander. The ship just exploded. We detected no incoming weapons. Fire. That is impossible. Ships do not just explode by themselves. Scan the entire system. Find whatever did this." But the UES Vengeance was already moving to its next target. Lieutenant Foster piloted the ship with incredible skill, using asteroids and space debris to hide their approach. The humans had studied Vaktar tactics for months and knew exactly how their enemies would react. "Second target acquired," Commander Brooks announced. "They are beginning to turn toward the first explosion. Hit them while they are distracted," Admiral Morrison ordered. Another spread of torpedoes streaked toward the second Vaktar ship. This time, the enemy crew saw the torpedoes coming at the last second, but it was too late to defend themselves. The human weapons struck with devastating accuracy, crippling the ship's power systems and life support. "2 down, 10 to go," said Captain Chen. Now the remaining Vaktar ships knew they were under attack, but they still could not see their enemy. Commander Vaktos was furious and confused. In 50 years of warfare, nothing like this had ever happened to him. All ships. Defensive formation. Maximum sensor sweep. Find this coward who attacks from hiding. The Vaktar fleet began to group together, which was exactly what Admiral Morrison had hoped they would do. "They are bunching up just as we predicted," Captain Chen observed. "Shall we proceed to Phase 2? "Yes. Signal all departments. We are going in for close combat." The UES Vengeance suddenly appeared from behind a large asteroid, moving faster than any Vaktar ship could match. Lieutenant Foster had pushed the engines beyond their safety limits, giving them a crucial speed advantage. "All weapons, continuous fire," Admiral Morrison commanded. The human ship unleashed everything it had. Laser cannons fired in rapid succession, targeting the enemy ship's weapon systems. Missile launchers sent wave after wave of smart bombs that could change direction to hit moving targets. The electromagnetic pulse weapons that Chief Turner had created disrupted the Vaktar ship's computers and communication systems. The Vaktar tried to return fire, but the human ship was too fast and too unpredictable. Lieutenant Foster flew the UES Vengeance like a fighter plane instead of a heavy cruiser, spinning and diving through space in ways that the rigid Vaktar formation could not match. Impossible, Commander Vaktos muttered as he watched his ships getting torn apart by an enemy that should have been destroyed in the first exchange of fire. Commander Brooks targeted the largest Vaktar ship with a special torpedo that Chief Turner had designed just for this battle. The torpedo carried a computer virus that would infect the enemy ship's systems and cause chaos throughout their fleet. The torpedo struck the command ship's communication array and immediately began spreading the virus to other ships through their connected systems. Within minutes, half the Vaktar fleet was experiencing computer malfunctions and communication failures. "Now is our chance," Admiral Morrison said. "Sergeant Wilson, prepare for boarding action." "With pleasure, sir," Sergeant Wilson replied. The UES Vengeance moved alongside one of the disabled Vaktar ships. Sergeant Wilson led 20 Marines in powered armor through the ship's docking tube and onto the enemy vessel. The Marines carried weapons designed specifically for fighting reptilian enemies in the close quarters of a spaceship. The Vaktar crew tried to resist, but they had never faced human Marines in combat before. The humans were faster, more flexible, and far more creative in their fighting tactics. Within 30 minutes, Sergeant Wilson's team had captured the entire ship. "Enemy vessel secured," she reported over the radio. "We are now in control of their weapon systems." Admiral Morrison smiled. "Turn their guns on their own fleet." The captured Vaktar ship began firing on its former allies, adding to the confusion and chaos that was destroying the enemy formation. More human boarding teams captured additional ships, turning the Vaktar fleet against itself. Commander Vaktos realized his fleet was being destroyed by tactics he had never seen before. These humans fought like no one he had ever encountered. They were unpredictable, creative, and absolutely refused to give up. "All remaining ships retreat to the outer system," he ordered desperately, but it was too late. The UES Vengeance and the captured Vaktar ships surrounded the remaining enemy vessels. In less than 2 hours, the mighty Vaktar fleet had been reduced to burning wreckage floating in space. On the planet below, Zara Veltar and the other survivors felt the ground stop shaking as the orbital bombardment finally ended. For the first time in weeks, there was silence. "What is happening?" asked one of the children. Zara looked at her communication device and saw something she had not seen in months. An incoming message on the emergency frequency. "Therian survivors, this is Admiral Morrison of the human starship UES Vengeance. Your world is now safe. We are here to help." Zara Veltar stared at her communication device in disbelief. After months of silence, someone had finally answered their calls for help. But these humans, whoever they were, claimed they had already defeated the entire Vaktar fleet. That seemed impossible. "This is Zara Veltar, administrator of the Therian colony," she replied with a shaking voice. "Are you really here to help us?" Admiral Morrison's warm voice came through the speaker. "Yes, we are here. The Vaktar ships in orbit have been destroyed, or captured. But we know there are still enemy forces on your planet. We are coming down to help you deal with them." Hope began to fill Zara's heart for the first time in weeks. But then she remembered something terrible. "Admiral Morrison, you must be careful. Commander Vaktos has taken thousands of our people as prisoners in the capital city. He has threatened to kill them all if anyone tries to rescue them. He is using our own people as shields to protect himself." There was silence on the communication channel for a moment. Then Admiral Morrison spoke again, and his voice was cold as ice. "Commander Vaktos just made his final mistake. No one uses innocent people as shields against humans and lives to tell about it." On the UES Vengeance, Admiral Morrison gathered his senior officers for an emergency meeting. The main screen showed the Therian capital city, where thermal scanners had detected large groups of people being held in the central government building. "The situation is clear. Admiral Morrison told his team. Commander Vaktos has about 5,000 Therian prisoners in the main building. He has surrounded the building with his remaining ground troops and heavy weapons. He thinks this makes him safe. Captain Chen studied the tactical display. A direct assault would result in massive civilian casualties. The building could collapse if we use heavy weapons. Colonel Amy Roberts, the leader of the ship's special forces, leaned forward. Admiral, my team can handle this. We specialize in hostage rescue operations, but we will need perfect coordination and split-second timing. What do you need? Admiral Morrison asked. I need tech specialist Marcus Johnson to hack into the building's computer systems and take control of the lights, doors, and security cameras. I need Pilot Officer Jake Mitchell to provide air support with our fighters. And I need Sergeant Wilson's Marines to create a distraction while my team goes in through the back. Dr. Clark, who had been studying Vaktar psychology, spoke up. Commander Vaktos is a typical Vaktar leader. He is arrogant and believes he is the smartest person in any room. If we can make him think he is winning, he might make mistakes. Admiral Morrison nodded. What kind of mistakes? Vaktar commanders always want to gloat when they think they have won. If we can get him talking, he might reveal weaknesses in his defenses. Excellent. Colonel Roberts, you have command of the ground operation. Show Commander Vaktos what happens when someone threatens innocent people in front of humans. Within an hour, human dropships were racing toward the planet's surface. The ships were small and fast, designed to avoid enemy fire while delivering troops exactly where they needed to be. Colonel Roberts and her Special Forces team landed silently in the ruins of a building 3 blocks from the government center. They wore advanced armor that made them nearly invisible and carried weapons designed for precision rather than destruction. At the same time, Sergeant Wilson and her Marines landed on the opposite side of the city and began a loud, obvious attack on the Vaktar outer defenses. They used bright explosions and loud weapons to make sure every enemy soldier knew they were there. Tech specialist Marcus Johnson was aboard the UES Vengeance, his fingers flying over computer keyboards as he broke into the government building's systems. The Vaktar had been using the building for weeks, but they had never bothered to change the security codes. I am in, Marcus reported. I have control of all building systems, lights, elevators, door locks, everything. Pilot Officer Jake Mitchell flew his fighter craft low over the city, drawing enemy fire away from the Special Forces team. His ship was fast and heavily shielded, allowing him to survive the anti-aircraft fire while keeping the Vaktar distracted. Inside the government building, Commander Vaktos paced back and forth in the main hall where the Therian prisoners were being held. The terrified aliens sat on the floor with their hands tied, while Vaktar soldiers pointed guns at them. Commander, one of his officers reported, we are under attack by the humans. They have landed troops on the south side of the city. Commander Vaktos smiled cruelly. Perfect. Let them come. When they see that I will kill every prisoner if they attack this building, they will surrender. Humans are supposed to be soft-hearted, fools who care too much about innocent life. He activated the building's communication system and spoke to the humans. This is Commander Vaktos of the Vaktar Empire. I know you can hear me, humans. I have 5,000 Therian prisoners. If you do not surrender immediately, I will execute them all. You have 10 minutes to decide. Admiral Morrison's voice came back immediately. This is Admiral Morrison. You are surrounded and your fleet is destroyed. Release the prisoners and we will allow you to surrender. Commander Vaktos laughed. You humans are even more foolish than I thought. I hold all the power here. You cannot attack without killing the very people you came to save. You are right, Admiral Morrison said, sounding defeated. We cannot risk innocent lives. What are your terms? Commander Vaktos felt victory within his grasp. All human forces will lay down their weapons and surrender. Your ship will leave this system immediately. In return, I will only kill half the prisoners instead of all of them. But while Commander Vaktos was gloating, Colonel Roberts and her team had already entered the building through a maintenance tunnel. Marcus Johnson guided them through the corridors using the security cameras, while keeping the building's sensors from detecting the Special Forces soldiers. Team 1 in position at the east entrance. Colonel Roberts whispered into her radio. Team 2 ready at the west stairs, came another voice. Team 3 has the roof access secured, reported a third. Soldier. Marcus Johnson's fingers danced over his keyboard. On my mark, all lights in the main hall will go out for exactly 30 seconds. That should be enough time. Colonel Roberts checked her equipment one last time. Her team carried special weapons that fired tranquilizer darts instead of bullets. They could disable the Vaktar guards without risking harm to the prisoners. All teams ready, she reported. Admiral, we are in position. Admiral Morrison's voice came over the radio. Colonel, you are authorized to proceed. Bring our friends. Home. Marcus, kill the lights, now. The main hall of the government building suddenly went completely dark. Commander Vaktos shouted in confusion as his soldiers stumbled around, unable to see anything. In the darkness, Colonel Roberts and her teams moved like ghosts. Their night vision equipment allowed them to see perfectly while the Vaktar were blind. They fired their tranquilizer weapons with perfect accuracy, hitting every enemy soldier in the room. Within 20 seconds, all the Vaktar guards were unconscious on the floor. The lights came back on to reveal human soldiers freeing the Therian prisoners. Commander Vaktos found himself staring down the barrel of Colonel Roberts' weapon. Impossible, he whispered. How did you get in here? The same way we destroyed your fleet, Colonel Roberts said calmly. We are humans, we do not give up, and we do not leave innocent people to die. Within minutes, all 5,000 Therian prisoners were free and being escorted to safety by human soldiers. Commander Vaktos and his remaining troops were taken prisoner. Outside the building, Zara Veltar ran toward the first human she saw. It was Dr. Clark, who was helping injured Therians get medical treatment. Thank you, she said with tears in her large eyes. Thank you for saving us. But why? Why did you risk everything for people you had never met? Dr. Clark smiled kindly. Because that is what good people do. They help each other, no matter who they are or where they come from. Later that day, Admiral Morrison stood in the ruins of the Therian capital, speaking to representatives from across the galaxy who had heard about the human victory. News of the battle had spread quickly through space, and everyone wanted to know about these humans who had defeated the mighty Vaktar Empire. Today, humanity announces its presence in galactic affairs, Admiral Morrison said to the cameras and recording devices. We are not conquerors. We are not seeking an empire. We are simply people who believe that innocent beings have the right to live in peace. Any species that threatens peaceful civilizations will find themselves facing the full might of human determination. The speech was broadcast across dozens of star systems. Within days, Earth began receiving messages from other species asking for help with their own problems. Some wanted protection from aggressive neighbors. Others wanted to trade or form alliances. Humanity had become a major power in the galaxy overnight, not through conquest, but through courage and compassion. On Kepler 442b, the Therians began rebuilding their world with human help. The two species worked together, sharing knowledge and becoming friends. Elderkoth, now free from his prison, spoke for his entire people when he declared humans to be the greatest friends the Therians had ever known. As the UES Vengeance prepared to return to Earth, Zara Veltar stood at the spaceport watching the human ship. She,